people. If you were with us earlier, welcome back. As you can see, we're on for our second broadcast of the day. I am Donna Guerin, your host for Paranormal Hotseat tonight.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Stacy Gus, and I'm going to be your co-host this evening.
I can actually say this evening. I kept wanting to say this evening, this afternoon, earlier this afternoon.
I know.
So we have a couple of special people on with us tonight. We have another special co-host tuning in with us, and you guys know him. He's part of Parafam now. He's with has Hoodoo Lounge TV, and Dedrick Hilton is on with us this evening. Here we go. We're gonna bring him in. What? Where'd he go? There he is.
Good evening, everyone.
Couldn't see it at first. All I saw was the top of his head. So
I was actually posting the show out to everybody.
You were what? Oh, that's right. I guess we could share it out, right? I should be doing that. I have to get into the habit of doing that. But we do have another special guest tonight, and he is an actor and producer and director. He's had parts in films and TV, and he also has a documentary on Amazon called Alien Abduction Answers. And I am going to bring to you John Yost. And there he is. Hey, John. I am so glad you decided to join us today.
Muted.
Oh, no. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. You're still muted.
You're still muted.
There we go. Nope.
Nope.
We had this issue earlier. No, you're still muted. Okay, he's going to come back in. We had this problem a few minutes ago, so. But glad you guys are back in to join us tonight. Hey, Sherry, how are you? Glad you joined us. Let's see. I've shared. Thank you, Sherry. I need to be doing that too while we're waiting for John to pop back in.
I did it on Facebook.
Yeah. I have to try to remember to do that. So we're on our second broadcast of the night. This is our first double feature. And tonight is actually our first show for season 2 we're working on now.
Mm-hmm.
So season 2, episode 1. So awesome. Hello. Oh, hello, ladies and Dedrick Hilton. I'm not sure who that is. It just says Facebook user. So maybe you can just tell us who you are.
Good evening, everyone.
Awesome. So while we're waiting, Dedrick, you want to enlighten us on any? Oh, it's Laura. Hey, Laura.
What's up, Laura?
Laura?
Talk about what's going on with you.
I think this is our first podcast with aliens specifically too, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So we were Eldon goes, yeah, we're gonna go from the paranormal to UFOs. I was like, that's right. There he is. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I switched the service that I was using. I apologize.
Oh, it's okay.
Terribly sorry. Terribly sorry.
It happens to the best of us. Yeah.
Well,
it happens to Donna.
I am not the best of us for sure. Yeah. That's better. That's better.
Yeah. So Great. It was 1 week. It was the internet for me. Then it was a computer issue. Then I ended up using my phone to be online, and it's like, oh my god.
That one, you were like in and out, in and out, in and out. Yeah.
Yeah.
My service kept dropping. I was like, oh my god, that was like the worst. Yeah. So anyway, how
John,
are you?
Tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just a regular guy. I went to grade school. I had a regular family life. Went to high school. Went to university. Worked in a real job, and traveled the country. And about 25 years ago, I got involved in. About 30 years ago, I got involved in film and television, and started to do a lot of on-camera stuff, a lot of radio stuff, and then from there, I got involved behind the camera as well. I did a lot of writing and directing and producing, and then eventually ended up with a company about 12 years ago called Rhino RYNO Pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and this company's been around for about 39 years,
Oh, wow.
and have produced stuff around the world. Everything from commercials to long format to training videos to films to specials, and worked for everybody. I mean, everybody from Fox to Esquire to CNN to Comcast to whomever. And so from there, then fast forwarding to about 6 years ago, I suggested that instead of working for everybody else, why not start to create our own content?
Mm-hmm.
And so we did a lot of stuff for, like stuff you might see on Food Network or History Channel or, Esquire or ESPN, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's my boring life in a nutshell. In a nutshell.
You just, of course, I've been online and I've been, looking you up and trying to gather some information for our show today. And you just seem like you're just so laid back and chill.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I just, let me say this. It's funny. I talk about social media sometimes, and I never had social media until this film came out, and I had to promote the film a little bit. And so many people, and you are all spiritual people, so you'll probably get this better than most. So many people are so focused on being right instead of being correct.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, like on Twitter, I dare you to say, happy Wednesday, and you'll get 1,000 people screaming at you. Well, what do you have against, Thursday? And then somebody else to come up will say, you're a Tuesday denier.
Why are you trying to rest the week?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
That's how it is. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have no time for any of that. I'm not ready to fight with anybody. I don't want to convince anybody of anything. All I know is I stumbled onto something that changed my life, and so when people ask me about it, I tell them, and that's all there is to it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're well, we had Dedrick on as a guest, and he's in a little bit of everything. I was gonna say parapsychology and UFOs, and you're actually the first guest that we've had on that's non-paranormal, so to say. Dedrick's a little bit of everything. He's paranormal and great. He was a great guest though, and he ended up being a part of Parafam. Well, we call ourselves Parafam, as of course the paranormal family, and we're just all a big so we're just a bunch of different teams, and we get together and we work together, and we're like just one big family. So it's just great.
Well, I'm blessed to be with you. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate it. So my first question for you is a two-parter.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us what happened to you in August of 1974, and what made you finally come forward to tell your story.
Sure. Those are really good. This is not your first rodeo, huh? You know what you're asking. Okay.
Yeah. I do my research.
well, may I ask, and I don't mean to be rude, if any of you have seen the film? Have none of you seen the film at this point?
Not yet.
Not at this point.
Not yet.
No problem. I just didn't want to bore you if you had seen.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah. Don't worry about that. No.
Yeah. So what had happened was that summer. It was a very hot summer, and I was a boy of 7 years old, and it was August, and it was very humid. And my parents, they weren't rich, so we didn't have air conditioning or anything like that. The windows were open, and my bedroom was on the second floor. And it was the middle of the summer, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I was disturbed by something. I kept hearing this kind of hum, this undulating, almost like this, like like that. And it bothered me, and I didn't know what the heck I was listening to, but I just couldn't go back to sleep. And so I got up, wiped the sleep from my eyes, and it's about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning at this time. And I go out of my door and into a door, which is the bathroom there on that second floor. And I go in there and I get a glass of water and I'm pouring the water, and the water is just coming out for a long, long time. And I have no idea why I'm standing there. But I'm a little boy, and so I'm not thinking about it, right? And at some point, it was just time to leave, time to go back to my room. So I turn off the water and I go to open the bathroom door. And when I do, standing in the doorway to my 7-year-old eyes was what I had seen on television 1,000 times. Back in the 60s and the early 70s, there was a Japanese television character called Ultraman. Ultraman, yeah, Ultraman.
Yeah.
Now, in the show, he was a giant.
Mhm.
And he was all silver and he had these big eyes and he fought the bad guys, right? So when I saw this, I was not afraid. You know, I dug Ultraman, right? And but the difference was this Ultraman was my size, and I was 7. I was like the smallest kid in my class until
Oh,
puberty.
wow.
Yeah, and then the bullies had to run. But before then, I was a little kid, and so Ultraman was my size, and I was fascinated by Ultraman. And we got very close in that doorway. And when I say close, I mean nose to nose. And then something happened. I've described it a bunch of different ways, but this is the most accurate. If you've ever stood on a beach and the water comes in up over your ankles and it goes back out, it starts to pull that sand from underneath your heels.
Mhm.
And you feel yourself kind of, you know what I mean? That's what happened to me. And I felt like I was falling, like I was losing control. And I immediately became petrified. And when I did, like a flailing, like a drowning man, I flailed my arms, right? And I made contact with whatever this was in this doorway. And I'm fighting for my life in my, I have this, flight or fight feeling at this point, little boy, not knowing what the hell's going on. And just then there's this tremendous flash of light. And I feel like I'm moving, like there's air around me moving around, but I can't tell what's going on. And I see all of these lights, this kaleidoscope of greens and blues and oranges and reds. It was almost like being on a carousel that got out of control too fast, right? And we're on a bullet train. They can't see the outside as it speeds past the windows. And I'm petrified, and I don't know what, I'm screaming and yelling and throwing my arms, and I don't understand what's going on. And then I kind of come to my senses. And when I do, I'm in my house, but something strange has happened. I'm in the middle of this struggle with this Ultraman character, but we have switched places. The Ultraman character entity, his back is in the bathroom where my back used to be. And my back is in the hallway.
Ooh.
But for me at the time, I wasn't thinking about anything. And I'm throwing my arms like this, and I come down, and as I do, I say he. I don't know it was a he, but I say he raised his right hand up to my shoulder, my left shoulder. And there was a blinding flash of light, and I felt this wave of energy, almost like if you're on a beach and you stand about waist high in the water and you get a wave and it hits you in the chest, knocks you down. It felt like that. And when I did, I'm not proud of this, I screamed like a banshee.
Well, you were just a kid. Yeah.
And I fell. There were stairs right behind me. Everything in the hallway was hardwood. And I fell down the stairs, and I felt ugly. You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't like a nice roll or tumble. I'm banging off walls and falling and smashing my head, and I am screaming bloody murder. Well, I land at the bottom of this landing here at the top of the stairs. I could see up the stairs as I'm falling down, and I'm screaming and I'm crying. because I'm really hurt.
Right.
And my parents, they had a first floor bedroom. So my parents come running around the corner and they can see me at the bottom. And, my father's screaming to high heaven, what the hell's going on? All this other stuff. And I am saying at the top of my lungs, Ultraman is upstairs. He's upstairs. And I'm sure my dad just hears, intruder, right?
Right.
So he bounds up the stairs. And my mom is looking at me, she's incredulous. She's like, what the hell happened? And she's trying to, calm me down. And I'm crying like you can't believe. Well, after a while, my dad's up there, swinging doors and stuff. He gets to the top of the stairs and he looks pissed off. I had awakened him in the middle of the night. And of course, nothing's there, right? And so they do what parents do. They take you upstairs, right? They show you underneath the bed. And they say, see, nobody there.
No monsters. Yeah.
And open up the closet. See, no monsters. And so they lay me down. And my mom, gives me the kiss on the forehead and everything. And I don't know, excuse me, sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. My mother lays me down and I zonk out. Like dead. The adrenaline had pumped through my body and I was exhausted. And I just fell in a coma. Well, the next day, once again, I got to place you in this, okay? It was 1974. I'm a little boy of 7 years old. It's summertime, so no school. And I did what little boys did at that time. Today, kids can't get away from the damn screens. But back then, you went outside and you played until it got dark, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
You lights come on, you better be home.
You got your Eggo waffle in this hand, and
right.
you're running outside, and your mom calls you for dinner when it gets dark, right?
Yep.
Okay. So people ask me, well, what did you tell your friends? I said no. I said it was almost like excuse me.
Not for my
I said it was almost like being beat up by a bully. Like I felt beat up. It had been traumatic. But once again, I'm a 7-year-old kid. I have no idea the import of what had happened, if anything had happened. Okay. So I play. And anyway, I come home. My mom screams for me, it's time to go. And we're going to have dinner. And she says, you are absolutely disgusting. You are not having dinner. We're going to get you a bath before this dinner. And, I'm a 7-year-old little boy. I do not want to get a bath. So I'm messing, fighting with my mom, and she's pulling my T-shirt off. So as she does, she's examining all of the bruises because I was covered in bruises.
From the fall.
And from the fall and the cuts. And she gets to my left shoulder. And she says, oh, honey, what happened here? And I said, Mom, I told you. I said, Ultraman was in my, room.
You had finger marks on you.
No, I have a different mark, which is still there.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. It looks like an elongated thumbprint.
Oh wow!
Right here.
Oh wow.
And it's in the movie. It's in the movie. It's still there, and it's raised. Well, I'll get to it. Here we go. So my mother's kind of concerned about this, right? And she says, well, okay, well, it'll be okay. It'll be okay, right? And she does, what moms do. She gives you a bath and, what did you have? Meatloaf? I don't know. Yeah. And, and then I just, went to bed that night and everything was fine. A couple of days later, my father is taking me to the doctor's office. And as we pull into the parking lot, he looks back at me and he says, now listen, I'm going to tell you something. We're going to walk in there and I don't want to hear any of this Ultraman stuff. He used other language. My father was a mill worker. He was a pretty hard guy. And so anyway, but he said in no uncertain terms, shut my mouth about that. And, once again, I don't understand why this is important or not as a little boy. Right. So I'm like, and I love my dad, right? So I sure, Dad, I don't care, whatever. So we get in there, doctors take a look at me, and this is, like I said, a couple of days later. So the bruises and everything else are starting to yellow, right? And he gets to my left shoulder again. And he says, "Oh, sport, what happened here?" And I just out of my mouth, well, and I could see my father in that corner. Now, once again, I got to call the age card.
You got the
Today,
hook.
today, kids, they do anything they want. They smart off to their parents and everything else. Back then, your father gave you the look.
That's all
You
it was.
know,
That's
you
all
know,
it took.
That's
you
all
know
it
what the
was.
look is,
That's all it
right?
was. That's
Yeah.
all it was.
My dad was 6'3" and 260, and he was
Wow.
a big man, big man, and he was working in the mills. His hands were huge. I had a proper respect for my father.
That's all it was.
and honestly, I had a great relationship with my father. I just knew when he was serious. So
Right.
he gave me that look, and I went, I was just outside playing, whatever. And the doctor looked at me kind of strangely. And then he manipulated the mark because at this point, well, now, today, it's raised, it's elongated, it's probably like, I want to say almost an inch long.
It's like
And
a keloid.
it's like a huge keloid. It's like a huge, and for those who don't know what a keloid are, it's a scar brought on by intense heat. Intense heat.
Like a branding.
Yes, sir, like a branding. And so I walked, he gave me a lollipop and I walked out the door. I didn't know any difference. And so my father's taking me home. And as we pull into the driveway, he says to me, "Now listen, I don't want to hear anything about this Ultraman ever again. I don't want you to scare your mother. I don't want you to scare your sisters. You shut your damn mouth about this." And once again, I never thought about talking about it. So I didn't understand it. I just said, "Well, sure, Dad." And so my entire life started with lies about this when I was 7 years old. And people have asked me, well, listen, you eventually became a high school kid, college kid. You had to have opportunities to get a little drunk and say something or whatever. And in fact, I did. I was active in sports. You'd be in the showers, you're taking off your shirt, you get in the locker room, and somebody would say, "Hey, what the hell is that?" Well, it was almost like second nature. People wear glasses or they wear a baseball hat or whatever. People don't say, "Today I shall put on my glasses so I may see clearly." Nobody does that.
Right.
People are like, "I can't see. Where are my glasses?" Boom, there we are. And that was it. So I had something came out of my mouth like, "Yeah, I got bit by a shark." Lightning hit me.
Yeah.
God doesn't like me. God punched me. Whatever. But guess what? In 3 seconds, they'd laugh and then never talk about it again. Right? So it was a quick out, and and if you think about it, anything would have been better than to say, "You know what?"
Yeah.
One of the things that's happened to me in my life now is I've lost friends. I've lost family. I've lost business opportunities. This is not a resume builder. I mean, IBM has not called me and said, "We need a new CEO. Would you please do that?" That's not happening to me. So I always it was never like I didn't remember it. It was just one of those things that it was just easier to not talk about. So I never did. And this is a very, very long answer to your first question to lead us to our second question, which is, why did it come out? Okay. Well, I told you good folks that, I produce shows and TV stuff and films and commercials. We were on a shoot for another client in a place called Borrego Springs, California. Okay, now for the folks who don't know what that is, that's a very flat, arid desert area in California. And we had rented a really big ranch house for everybody to stay because we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And there were like 15, 17 people staying at the house. Well, we had been shooting all day, and we had a night shoot. We were outside shooting at night. We came back to the house, And my crew and I, we were downloading all the footage because you don't want to lose that stuff. You know, you don't want something. So you have duplicates of it, so you make sure that you don't lose it or it gets damaged or whatever. So that's what we're doing. And the rest of the people had kind of migrated out in the back of this ranch house around the pool to have a drink, a nightcap. And it's once again, it's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So I finish up inside and I walk outside. I'm going to have a nightcap. And the pool is over here, and I'm right about here. The house is behind me about 30 feet. And I raise my glass. They're going to give a toast. And I notice in the glass, there's this little sparkle of light. And I say to myself, what's that? Your mind tries to say, oh, well, that's that, or that's that. And my head said, oh, well, that's the moon. That's the moon. And I went, wait a minute, that's not the moon. We specifically shot tonight so we could control the light. There is no moon. It's a new moon. What is that? And as I'm dropping this thing to my left above the house was this irregular shaped object. It was almost like an egg, and it was blue and green, and it was illuminating. It kind of pulsed with its own light. And I was completely shocked. I went, what? And as I do, I come down and there's one of my cameramen is right here. His name's Scotty. And I grab him and I turn him around. I said, you got to see. And he says, oh my God. And as he does, all these people around the pool are turning, and you can hear them one by one, like, oh my God, what is that? Is that a UFO? Holy crap. On and on and on. And I am just shocked by what I see. And this thing moves, and I mean lightning fast, like that. And it moved in a diagonal, zigzag kind of way and stopped right above my head.
Wow.
Now, I don't know how long it was there. It felt like a second. It could have been 3 hours. I don't know. But it felt like a second. And it stopped. And when it stopped, that same feeling came back to me of falling. The sand had been pulled out, and I hadn't felt that feeling since I was a 7-year-old boy.
Wow.
Anyway, this thing zigzags away from me a little bit, about 20 feet or so, stops, and everybody is still in shock. Everybody is seeing this. It's right here. I could have thrown a baseball and hit it. And it stops, and then it just slowly drifts off into the desert. Like I said, it's very flat there. So we watched it for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and everybody was shocked. And so it blinks out, and people are talking. They're like, "Wow, what did we see? How was this?" And I was dying. Everything that I had kept inside for 45 plus years came crashing in on me, and I could not straighten out my stuff. I was shitting myself.
Wow.
And so I made some stupid comment like, oh, well, you young kiddies can sit up and drink, but I've got old man stuff to do, and got up and made my way to the room that I was in. And again, I'm not proud of this, but I barricaded the door with my bed. I pushed the bed up there and threw all my luggage out. And I sat in the corner and I cried like an idiot.
Wow.
I'm a full grown man. I'm about 6'3" and 250. Ain't no reason for me to be crying. And I am crying like an idiot. And all of that stuff came crashing back. It wasn't like I had forgotten the details, but all of the emotion and the import and
Everything
the fear and everything that I'd never dealt with.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Stress disorder,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That experience, recall all that traumatic and anxiety and the fear that you felt when you were 7 years old, and you were reliving it again.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
because you had to stuff it down, and that's the way it was back then. You stuffed everything down, and you swept it under the rug, and that's how it was.
So the next morning, I was so to do my job. Okay, as a producer, you have to be super anal retentive. I mean, you got to check every box. I mean, especially because you're usually spending other people's money, and so you have all kinds of audits and legal stuff. So you got to be on top of your stuff, and I am usually completely on top of my stuff. But I was falling apart, and I was so angry at myself, and so ashamed, and angry that I could not get myself together. And it felt like if you've ever been so cold or so ill that your insides are shaking the whole time, even though the outside doesn't look like it's shaking. But that's the way it felt. Like I could not get warm. And so I get up early in the next, I get off the floor the next morning, and I'm mad and determined. I'm taking this hot shower. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do it. And I walk out, man, and I have immediately developed a tremendous fear of open sky and big water. I can't get close to I can't get close to that pool. And look, I have to go out and find locations, right? We're in the middle of the desert. There are no trees, man. There are no trees. There's nothing to cover you. So now I'm petrified to get out of my truck and scope out new locations. It is debilitating. And my guys who, beautiful people, wonderful people who depend upon me, they notice there's something wrong. There's something wrong with John. And what happened? So I make it through the shoot. And I, through the dear blessings of triple distilled Irish whiskey, I make it home. Yes, I abused my liver that trip. Yes, I did. And I get home and I get off the plane, and people notice immediately there's something wrong with me. And it got so bad that I would park directly next to the door of my offices and run in like an idiot, so I would not have to be under the sky.
Wow.
Or I would wait until people got, and then I would run up to them and I'm searching around. It's ridiculous. It affected my life. It affected my home life. It affected my work. It affected everything about me. And I said, I'm so pissed off at myself. And so what I did was, a smarter person would have asked for help, would have gone and said, look, I got to talk to a psychologist or psychiatrist about this. I couldn't do that. I'm so angry and anal and self-reliant and this, I just couldn't do it. So what I started to do is I said, well, look, I'm going to figure out this problem. That's what producers do. You never hear producers say, well, that can't be done. No, we say, how do you figure out? How can we do it? So I'm going to figure out how this can be done. And so I said, look, there got to be other people who have suffered like this. I'm nobody special. I'm nobody. What's this about? So I started to find out there were other people. And so I started to read about them, and then I would contact a few of them, and I would start to interview them. And then that led to them being on camera, and that led to me sharing my story, and that led back and forth to some sort of catharsis. And then I got to a point when I realized something that I had never realized before in my life. I knew every detail that I just told you, except that missing piece. What the hell happened to me? How did I get turned around? How did that entity switch places with me? Where did I go? Or how did that happen? And that's what led me to a woman named Debs Shakti, who has a global practice. She really is a guardian angel. I can't say enough about her. And, you heard about Christ consciousness. She's that kind of person, like give you the shirt off her back, help you with anything you need. Right. You know people like this, right? I didn't know anybody in my life like this. And she is a quantum hypnotherapist. And I didn't understand any of that. In fact, I'm embarrassed about this too. I'm not a misogynist, but I mean, she's a little tiny person. And I'm like kind of a big, and she's talking about this quantum hypnotherapy. I said, come on. You could have hypnotized, come on. Maybe hypnotize my kneecap. I don't know what you're doing. And so, I mean, yeah, it sounds silly now. And I know I sound like an idiot, but okay. But I'm telling you the truth, right? I'm just telling you what's in my head and my heart. Yeah. And so, anyway, she said, look, John, all I'm going to do is I'm going to help you learn how to relax. And you're going to relax enough to walk down this hallway that you built. And you're going to open that door that you locked. And you're going to open up that filing cabinet that you built. And then You're going to just look inside that filing cabinet, and you're going to watch, and you're going to report. Whatever you see, it doesn't matter. We don't care. We just want to know what's in the box, and you're going to tell us. And I'm not going to say a word. And so we had done a couple of experiments to see if I could go under. And she would do this experiment, like take me to your favorite Christmas. And I could remember being this little kid and playing toys and seeing the Christmas village underneath the tree and all this other stuff. And I could see it, I could taste it, I could feel it. I was totally blown away that it was so real that I could literally be transported back in time. So by the time it was time to do the actual session, I was ready. I knew that this worked, right? And I was scared to death. And so I said, look, I want to film this thing because I think that this could help other people. At this point in my life, when I was going through this, I was healing slowly but surely, and I knew how much pain I was in. And so I said, God, man, other people got to be suffering like this. And she didn't want to. She didn't want to record it. And I said, we'll figure this out. We put all the cameras in the building, and everybody got out of the building. And just let them go. And the session was 6.5 hours. And the film, of course, it can't be 6.5 hours. But the actual regression was, and it's really uncomfortable to watch. That's why I'd asked you if you had seen the film, because you see this. You don't see a man struggle. You see a little boy in pain and scared to death. And you see exactly what happens. Yeah. So what had happened was, at that point, I decided that I was going to collect all this information and make a film out of it. And I know that it seemed like you asked me two very simple, direct questions, but that's a very...
No.
I'm an Irish guy, so if we had whiskey, we'd be talking, for a week.
We usually have wine.
I understand. But I hope that answered your questions thoroughly.
Yeah, it did. Wow. So I'm going to go to a couple of quick. It just says Facebook user, doesn't say who it is. Are you the gentleman that has recordings from aliens?
I don't think I understand that question. I don't have any kind of conversations from aliens on tape. No, that's not what I have at all.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a beautiful name. That's all I know.
I know. I'm not going to butcher it. I'm just going to say Nolan.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here. We're bigger than big believer in paranormal ourselves. So
yeah. Well, and you know what? It's interesting because you had mentioned about Dietrich's interconnection. He kind of spans all of these phenomena, and there is a lot of study right now in that. In fact, there's a gentleman that you good folks should interview. His name is Ray Hernandez. And Ray Hernandez is a very, very smart man. And I don't want to say he's a dear friend of mine. I just know him and I really like him. Right. But he and I are friends, but we're friendly. He is a PhD, and he deals with, hundreds of PhDs around the world, these theoretical physicists and everything else. And what they've done is they've come together and they've said, listen, all of these phenomena, right? UFOs, spirit contact, hallucinogenic trips, ayahuasca trips, earth trips, NDEs, somehow they are all connected. And what they're trying to do is, from a very, very scientific, methodical way, try to understand that, because we really don't have the science to completely understand, because we're like the people inside the nut looking up at the ceiling of the shell of the nut saying, well, I think we're a peanut, or I think we're an apricot seed, or whatever. We don't have perspective. Mm-hmm. And so we're way, way too close. Anyway, but he is a brilliant guy, and I'm sure, Dietrich, you would enjoy talking to him.
Yeah, sure. John, like I was having that conversation with Rob on one of the other shows about all this UFO sightings, the paranormal phenomena, metaphysics, how all this stuff is tied together. When you start getting into portals and stuff. Well, what's
Yes, sir.
between a portal that an apparition trying to pass through, or a portal that are appearing around UFOs, or UFOs is transporting
Yeah.
through? What's
Exactly.
between higher consciousness going from 3D to 5D to 12D?
Yeah.
Maybe higher consciousness is us tapping into our maybe alien DNA that we might possess.
Good point. Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
You know,
Well, what was happening is, and he's actually featured in the film, Mr. Whitley Strieber. You might know him. He wrote the book Contact back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Communion. I apologize. Communion back
Okay.
in the 80s. And there was a movie made, and he's written a bunch of books. He's a speaker around the world, a real thought producer about this. And he had noticed they had received a tremendous amount of feedback from around the world, hundreds of thousands of notes and letters. And many people would see their dead in conjunction with these aliens. And so he said, we don't understand, but there's some sort of connection with our dead. And so some people posited, well, maybe what it is this other entity, this consciousness, this alien, whatever this is, can pick up our thoughts and doesn't want to scare us. And so, in fact, kind of clothes itself as that. So it knows, I'll appear to you as your grandfather because you love your grandfather, that sort of thing.
Right.
And what I said to him is, I think an alternative to that is that these entities somehow through either consciousness tools or through their tech are able to pierce that veil between these dimensions. And when they do, they pass through that sphere that the dead and the consciousness that are transitioning are in that. And so when that happens and they come through those portals, we are witnessing the dead and other spirits as an artifact of their passage. You know what I mean? Like we accidentally see them as well.
right?
It cracks that world. As you good folks know in your work, that there are some places where the worlds are thin.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's like that. It's almost as though they can navigate that they've kind of mapped that and they figured that out. So I mean, once again, I do not know anything. I am an idiot. I am a guy on a search. When I got in a lot of trouble for the name of this film. It's called Alien Abduction Answers, right? So some guy takes me to task. He's screaming at me, "Oh, Mr. Answers." I said, "Look, man, it doesn't say the answer. That's not what I said.
Right.
Okay, it's answers." The idea for me was this. I was suffering, and I'm still going through it, but suffering with this. And I thought, look, if I can help somebody else, think of this like a voyage, a path, right? And there are landmarks, and people go along and they say, "Hey, that makes sense to me. I resonate with that." And some people say, "Oh, well, that doesn't make any sense." Okay, well, that's fine. Well, you make a left turn, you make a right turn. But these landmarks help people. So I ask the stupid questions. I make a fool of myself. Okay, I'll be your scaramouche. You can mock me. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Because I'm on a mission for myself. That's why I said I'm not out to convince anybody. I was desperate to find an answer to calm myself so I
Yeah.
could function as an
Mhm.
adult, as a citizen. And so the film is an accident, kind of. But what it's done is this. When you watch it, if you have an opportunity, what you'll see is you'll see your father, you'll see your mother, you'll see your sister, you'll see you, you'll see your best friend, you'll see your cousin. There are really smart people in this film, people with their own businesses, people with master's degrees, people who have big families, who are productive people in society, who have all stepped forward and said, "Look, this has happened to me.
Mhm.
This is what,"
Yeah.
and some of their experiences are just like mine, and some of them are so totally different. And the reason for that, by the way, is as you know, there are all kinds of different intelligences out there that you would encounter, right?
Yep.
You encounter some light and some dark, right?
Yep.
Well, just like everything, people in this field, this ufology field, alien field, what they want to do because of our ego is they want to label it. right? They want to capture it and put it in a bottle because now we feel safe, because now we can control this, because now we know it. You're an idiot. Shut up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
Look. If in the film, I do this little kind of parable. I say, look, Elon Musk, right? He's a guy everybody knows. He wants to go to Mars. So he's going to send this rocket to Mars. I said, so let's just pretend he does, right? And let's just suppose, just for fun, a little alien Martian guy jumps out. And the aircraft lands. And out of this aircraft comes a gentleman from Kenya. Comes somebody from Scandinavia. Comes somebody from Asia. Comes somebody from Germany. Okay. All these people look totally different because of their evolution, because of their history, because of their diet, because of everything. And they all have different agendas. Maybe one is military. Maybe one is just taking in the sights. Maybe one is scientific. Maybe, okay, they all have this. And that is from one ship, from one planet next door. If you look at the universe and how many trillions upon trillions of stars are there, and how many billions and billions of planets there are, and we allow that life is prolific in the universe, there is absolutely no way that we can go, no, they're all Palladians. No,
Right.
you're an idiot. They can't be. They can't be. Right? And once again, it's our ego. It's our ego that, and by the way, it's our ego which doesn't allow us to see some of these things. Just refuse. Not me. I don't see it. It's total BS. I don't believe in this crap.
Denial.
Yeah. Okay. So that ego is our greatest, let's say, our greatest tool in survival, but it's also our greatest footfall because it shows our weakness. You know, let's say you, Donna, and I are standing on a hill, and we're soldiers, and we got some bad guys coming up over the hill, and it's midnight, right? And you and I have night vision glasses, right? And we look down there, and whoa, here come the bad guys, right? So I'm a dummy. I take off my glasses. I go, whoo, boy, I'm glad those guys are gone. I feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm about to have a bad night, right? Okay, you are going to be much more successful, right? Okay, so this is my point. This is the way the world is. People take those glasses off. Oh, I'm glad that doesn't exist. You are idiots because these energies, these intelligences are everywhere. Now, they come in different manifestations. Some of them are spirits. Some of them are, we have from the very beginning of our development as people, as a human, as a species, have encountered these things. And the way I like to look at them is in buckets or spheres of influence or agencies. Let me explain it. Instead of saying, look, all these cats are from Krypton or whatever, okay? I say, look, from the beginning of time, people, women, men, children, boys, girls, we interacted with nature, right? We were in nature. We grew things, we hunted things, we harvested things, right? Okay. And from the beginning of time, we have encountered different intelligences, different consciousnesses, maybe even the planet itself. People talk about the planet itself being alive. It's big enough to have its own consciousness, right? And we experienced it. And you know what we said? We said, those are pixies, and those are fairies, and those are small people, and those are the people of the forest, and those are twinkle lights, and all this stuff. Okay. So there's that bucket. Now take a look. The four of us, you know what we did today? We got up in our air-conditioned house. We took our phone out. We got to our air-conditioned car. We went to our air-conditioned office, and we interacted with nature probably very little. So what happens is when modern-day humans bump into something like that, they go, oh, UFOs. Or, oh, it's a spirit. Okay? They have no clue. But what they want to do is they want to put a name on it, right?
Yep.
Okay, there's also the second bucket. Second bucket is this. Look, we know the government, and I mean all governments, France, Germany, Russia, US, but they lie. Okay? It's like, what do sharks do? They eat and they, procreate and they pass waste, all right? Anyway, so governments do two things. No matter what you think of governments, and I don't care if you're on this side or this side. Watch, governments do two things: they tax because they need money, right? They tax, and they control.
Mm-hmm.
They make laws, right? So how fast you can go, how much you can eat, where you can go, okay, all this other stuff. Okay. So governments lie for their own reasons, and they don't really care about us. Okay, we're just part of the mechanism. Okay, some of the stuff that people see are tech. They're tech from our government and other governments, or it's some sort of entity that is psychotronic, or whatever. Some of that is us, meaning humankind.
Yeah.
Do you
The
think
third.
I'm sorry. Before you go into
No, go ahead. I'm bored.
I'm glad this is the part that I wanted to ask you about, because from my research and stuff, I also believe too that some of this technology that we're seeing from these crafts are government technology that even the military themselves don't know about.
100%.
Right.
100%.
And it could have came from, it could be reverse engineering, something that we might have caught or crashed. But I do believe some of I have some questions about the tic-tac, but I want to ask you this one here, because this is one that's been seen over the decades, the TR3B, the triangle one with the anti-gravity propulsion built into it.
Yeah.
The black triangle one. Now,
Yes, sir.
Some people, I want to get your opinion. Do you believe that's hidden government technology, or is that really something from somewhere else?
I think it's ours, but it's been retro developed from alien technology. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've been working really, really hard since the 40s, and people don't realize
That's
that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's been behind the scenes. Once again, I don't have any inside information. It is just my intuitive gut feeling, knowing what I know now, to say, yes, sir, I think you're absolutely correct, Deidre.
Yeah, I mean, like, well, even with Germany during World War II, the guy that was the Air Forceman that was over Project Blue Book, he stated that if we would have went on for like another year during the war, Germany would have beat us, because they was working on aerial craft that was way ahead of anything they ever seen before in shape and designs and with missile technology and stuff. So I mean, like, so some of the stuff is ours, like meaning humans.
Yeah.
Other governments, and I believe some of it can also be
interesting to your point, Diedrich, too, because the rest of that story is that where did they get that quantum leap of their development? Where did they get that? The Germans.
Right.
Okay, many talks about them channeling that information from the Vril and the Nine, some sort of extraterrestrial intelligence which was giving them these information and these formulas to allow them to produce that technology. Right. So once again, like you were talking about how all this stuff crosses over and is connected, this is a web for anybody to say, hey, listen, I know. Come on, man, you just don't know. It's almost like if anybody fished out there and they got their twine all messed up, they're like, I'm going to fix it. No, you cut that sucker out and throw it away. Because there's no way. I mean, or you could do it, but it would take the rest of your lifetime.
Right.
Yeah. So, yes, sir, I agree with you. Diedrich.
So Laura, I believe it was Laura, she had asked the question a while back and we didn't get to it. She wants to know if, it's okay. She wants to know if you think that you're still being followed.
You know, that is a terrifying question.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of reasons. Let me say this to you. Once again, I am not a smart person. Okay? I am not a smart person.
Yes, you are,
John. Not really. I remember clearly what happened to me as a little boy. Now, when I went underneath and I was able to explore it, I had found out that many times before they had taken me. But after that, I had never explored. But I never had the sense that I had any other experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was so focused on like curing myself, healing myself, that I'm going through it and we make the film and I feel this tremendous pressure off of me, right? Like I finally was able to say something I never could say before. I was able to kind of live through it, and as you talk about it a little bit more, you can, for some reason, it's like an invisible weight on you. You just can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I felt that way, and I thought, well, you know what? This happened when I was a kid,
Oh, she
and
said
once
she's
again,
sorry.
I could keep it at an arm's distance. So we make the film, and so I am just living my life now. You know, just promoting the film and doing other projects. You know, like once again for Food Network and all this other crap. I work 1 hour and 20 minutes from my office. I mean, I travel every day. Okay. And I've traveled that way for 12 or 13 years. Okay. I don't travel 3 hours one way. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trip's not supposed to take 3 hours.
Wow.
I don't know what's happening. So I take off from my office and I wait and I'm home late. I'm not drinking. I don't take drugs. I don't do any of this stuff. You know, or
Yeah,
That's
lots of
what I was
time.
gonna say, losing time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm finding myself in places that I would never go, or I'm finding myself out of a locked house with security systems and everything else outside, and wondering how the hell did I get out here, and having to ring the bell to get back in.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, so what do I know? I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But something is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what Sherry says, once they take you, they're always with you somehow. Screen memories and then make you forget meets for safety of us, and then there's good and bad and all. Okay.
I'm sure. Thank you, Sherry.
So we do try to categorize these beings though, right? Like there's different categories of what type of beings people come into contact with. Yeah. What would yours be categorized as? 'Cause I don't think that would be considered a gray man, right?
No. Well, in the film, you'll see. Here's the thing. Well, no, I'm not trying to avoid your question. I'm going to answer.
Oh no, that's okay.
Yeah. So first of all, I thought for my entire life it was like Ultraman, you know, or something that looked like Ultraman. So I would assume that it was a gray, right?
Right.
It was kind of I found out it was not a gray. Oh no. Oh no. It was not. And I found, and then when they took me, they didn't take me up in a ship. Oh no. First
it was
of all,
malicious though, right? It felt malicious.
Well, they took me against my will, and I was fighting.
So it was malicious. Okay.
So, but what took me was more of an insectoid type of thing.
Okay.
And we try to recreate it as best we can in the film. It was more like, if anything, more like an ant kind of being. It had antennae coming out here, but also out of its cheeks like this.
Wow.
And it was somehow able to manipulate energy, or once again, I'm an idiot. I don't know. I'm just telling you, it has some sort of coercive power that it was able to do this, or maybe it was sending out a signal that disrupted my mind, or whatever. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it was that. And then when they took me, they didn't take me into a ship. They took me into a subterranean area. It was almost like, please forgive me. I don't mean anything by these questions. I just don't know you good folks. Have you ever been in a stadium, you know, like a football stadium or for a concert or something? Okay, imagine if you by yourself were standing in the middle of the field and there was a lid on top of it and it was pitch black and there was nobody there. That is a big space. Okay.
Yeah.
So I could tell that it was underground because I could feel the moisture in the air, and there were stalagmites and stalactites, and there was this hole, this opening way up at the top, but it was irregular. So it wasn't like a metallic, perfect circle, right? It looked like there was, I'm guessing, it looked like there was some type of growth or moss or something coming down, and there was some light up there. That's how I could see below. And so this entity, this thing was there, and there were other entities there. Now, people have said that they look like grays, but if you could imagine a gray, but if you stretched out its face almost like a horse, it had like a really elongated jaw. And the company I work with is not we're not like, two guys named Larry and we're working out of a van, right? We're a real film company. So when I tell you the special effects are second to none, I really mean it. So when you see this, we had professional makeup artists and everything else. Really, they spent a lot of time with me to try to recreate these things so you could see them for yourself.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, there was some sort of insectoid that I refer to, and it's so sad when you see me. I'm a little boy in my mind, and I'm talking about him, and I call him their bully because he beat me, it took me. But the other ones, they were silent, and they were like, I guess the seniors or whatever, the controllers, or whatever. I don't know, and nobody spoke to me. They were all pictures in the mind. They would force a picture into your mind that would elicit some sort of emotion or some sort of trigger in you.
Kind of like
and the lights. Remember, I told you about all those lights and everything else.
Right.
What it was is I was kind of suspended, almost like kind of like this, like I was sitting back in a chair, but I couldn't tell that there was anything underneath me. And there were these gigantic, and I'm talking about like floor to ceiling screens, and there were 3 of them, and they were moving. There were all these images, and they were moving from right to left. And I still remember, this is a stupid little thing that I remember. I told you I'm very anal retentive. Well, I was always anal retentive. I was the kid that always had the clean room and always had the pencil sharp. Oh yeah. I was picked on a lot. Yeah. But I was mad at them, and I didn't even realize this. It only came out through that, when I went through the session. I was mad at them because I kept thinking they're doing this wrong. Because when you write English, you write left to right. All the messages are left to right, and these messages were right to left. And I said they were doing it wrong. And it's so funny because you see this little boy struggle with this right on screen, and it's sad and it's pitiful and it's scary, but what it does is it's a human thing, and you go, oh, man, that's funny. You know what I mean? Yeah. But the messages were not the images themselves. I'm trying to remember. Back in the 80s and the 90s, they used to have these things in malls where they would take like a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and they would duplicate it a thousand times, and there was an image of Abraham Lincoln made up of image. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. It's smaller and smaller and smaller. It was kind of like that these big images were made of smaller images, but the information was in between the lines, in the creases, in the separations. Now, step back as a man now, not as a little boy being scared out of my mind. Stop and think about the logic of this. This is brilliant, if you will. So first of all, your mind, my mind, our minds, human minds, we're bicameral, meaning we have a conscious and a subconscious mind. Now, our conscious mind constantly fights with the world. It rejects things, it allows things in, it stops. It is the perfect no machine. It's a guardian outside your mind. Now, your subconscious is much bigger, much more powerful, and all this other stuff, but it keeps it in check. It allows us to work in this 3-dimensional world, right? So, the way that they did this was brilliant. They kept my conscious mind busy with these images and how it was moving, and I was fighting with it. Meanwhile, they could access my subconscious with the information that was in the seams, and it was just going straight in like a download. And I thought, man, I never considered that in my entire life, right? Why would I? Until I started to analyze this and go over the tape over and over again. I went, that's freaking genius. Now, who would have thought of that in the 70s? I don't know.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow. Lisa said, little boy, that being locked out business just hit me in my gut. That is what would happen to me 4 or 5 years, a 4 or 5 year old girl, and then I started finding dead people up until I was 12. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. God bless you, Lisa. God bless you.
Oh wow. I'm a I know before we go, if you have a few minutes afterwards, we have a gentleman. His name is Jim Andre. He's an alien abductee, and he would like to talk to you afterwards if you have time. So yeah.
Sure, of course, of course. That's what I do this for.
Okay. Well, cool. Um, so I know you started on your production of alien abduction awareness yet? Because I'm
Yeah, just for everybody, there's you can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? There's so
right.
much. I mean, think about your experiences. Could you put it all in, 90 minutes? Of course not. There's no
Oh
way,
no. Yeah.
no way. So I did as much as I could in one film, and it's called Alien Abduction Answers. I'm working on the second film, which is Alien Abduction Awareness, and then there's going to be a third film called Alien Abduction Ascension.
Oh, okay.
Now, what
And
this
I have
what?
to apologize. I really should have watched this film before you came.
No.
Life
Hey,
got in the way, and I keep going.
no,
"Oh, I haven't watched it yet."
Donna, you're a busy lady. I
Is
told
that the
listen.
wallpaper in the background to the show, to the movie?
I
I'm
didn't hear
sorry,
you.
sir.
What you
Oh,
say?
this,
Yeah.
yes, sir. I mean, the film is on Apple TV. It's on
It's on
Prime
Amazon
Video, Amazon Vudu, Vimeo, Google Play, Kino Now. Yeah, I mean, if you just say into your, it's on YouTube, for God's sake. You can rent it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so the second film, the first film was supposed to take people from, look, everybody in the world is kind of ignorant. We kind of know, but we don't know. We don't want to know, this sort of thing. And ignorance breeds fear, because if you don't know what's in the dark, you're afraid of it, of course. And so this takes you from ignorance and fear to some sort of understanding. I'm not saying complete understanding. I don't have complete understanding. I don't know, but some sort of understanding. The second film is supposed to help the people take it from some sort of understanding to some sort of integration. Like when you know something, right? It's one thing to know, but it's another thing to take it inside and say, okay, listen, if I have this information, now I can make decisions, right? Like if you know a road is washed out, right? And you go down this road, you're going to be in some trouble. Well, you can make decisions. You can say, look, I got a canoe, I can go across. Or I got a big four-wheeler, I can go through. Or you know what? I know another way around. But you can make decisions. If you don't know what it's around that corner, you're caught by surprise and you're petrified. You don't know what to do, you freeze. So the second film is like, okay, well, look, if this is true, let's take this understanding and kind of incorporate it and start to make decisions based on this. And then the third film is to come to some sort of, when I say ascension, I don't mean like, we're all going to have wings and ascend to the sky.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about my film is all about the human condition. Okay. It's all about us. It's about you. It's not about these lights in the sky. It's about your souls. It's about your consciousnesses and what we do as a people, how we deal with this. How do we deal with each other when we find out that we're not alone? Then it's just us. Guess what, folks? This will change the way you look at the world.
Right.
And that's what I posited at the end. I said, how can shiny lights in the sky make me want to be a better person?
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's that happen?
Level of consciousness.
What's that happen? And it cracks that cosmic egg in your head, and you start to make decisions based on that. So that last one is about ascendance. There are people like yourselves doing God's work all around. You understand there's something more. You're exploring it every day. You're dealing with it and you're helping other people. Well, guess what? If everybody started to do a little of that, what would happen to the world? What would happen to the global consciousness? A lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And so that's what that third film is about. So the second film is about this integration and about taking some of these hard truths and dealing with our egos, because we got to. Because if we don't, we're in a lot of trouble. Mm-hmm. Everybody's blowing each other up because we think we deserve to do that, because we have the rights to do that. It's a different thing when you start to take yourself out of yourself.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, John, you touched on a very great message here. And we talk about that often, like third dimensional stuff is all about your ego. It's all about you. It's about lust. It's about everything that's actually low vibrational. And like you said, what will happen in humanity if we start transcending and and make it our mission to seek higher level of internal spiritual consciousness for the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
The world would be a better place in less than a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a big jump for folks. It's a big
Yeah,
jump for folks.
And it's
I
a journey.
heard you, Diedrich, talk about it's something I caught you say something on another broadcast, or maybe it was this broadcast I had watched, and you had talked about, you know, with all of this stuff coming out by the Pentagon and all these governments and stuff like this. Here's, I think, what the most important thing about that is not that they're admitted that they lied for years, and not that they, you know, don't know what the heck this is. It's this. Watch. There are really three types of people in the world. Think about it. Think about it. First type of people are like, that's all bunk. It's all crap. You guys are weirdos and stupid and dummies. Okay. There's that type of person. Okay. And I call them the bankers. These are the kind of guys who are looking at their calculator and looking down at their feet all day long. And this is all they know. This. Okay. Then you got people who are like pseudo intellectuals. They sit around the fire and they say, you know, I can theorize that in the eternal history of the universe, there might... Okay. But their end point is the key. They always say, but what does that have to do with me? They say.
Right.
And then you got people like yourselves who are dealing in this reality every day, right? So watch this. Along comes the Pentagon, along comes all these governments and says, you know what? It kind of lied. You know, there is something there, and we really don't know what it... Okay, watch what happens to these three people. The first guys who are like this, they go, what the hell are they talking about? What are all these people looking at? For the first time, now watch this though, this is really important. For the first time in their entire lives, they look up, or they look out. Mm-hmm. For the first time. And watch this, this is the whip topping on this. They look out with expectation. They look out with not only that, dare I say, a duty to see something other than themselves. Their paradigm switches completely because their authority, their God, the government or whatever, right, their world, has told them that, by the way, you live in the Truman Show. Yeah. Now take a look at the second type of people. You know, they say, well, what, the government is doing this? And wait. They're using my tax money? That's affecting me. What are they looking at? For the first time in their lives. So this thing that's happened is a very subtle and brilliant move by someone that is cracking open the consciousness, the subtle energies of our mind and our spirits to say, you are not alone. Mm-hmm. Your ego has lied to you. So now if we can look out and look in, this will change the world.
Yep. Okay. So the higher and the in charge are watching, and our world has forgot this and our world to destroy. Yeah.
I don't know what that really means, but
that's interesting. The three different people. I wonder where the ultra religious lands in those categories.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Because you know, it's like you can throw all the facts, all the videos in their faces, and it's still like, nope. We are the center of the universe. We are alone. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter what you do.
Well, see, I feel badly for these people because they've misread, they've misunderstood. I mean, hell, if you're a fundamental Christian and you don't believe in extraterrestrials, you're crazy. Look. Oh, I know, right? Angels are not humans.
Yeah.
And they were created in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
They are extraterrestrials by definition. You're just sad and lonely and sad and dumb.
It's will in the book of Ezekiel.
Yeah. I'm just saying. Of course. You know, and God himself is an extraterrestrial. He was not born on Earth. I'm sorry to tell you. It's like I always like to tell people, you know, Jesus was not Irish.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love him to be oh Jesus, but he was not. He was not.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh Jesus, you know, like O'Reilly or
Oh, Shanahay, Jesus.
yeah, he was not. It broke my heart when I first found out, but it's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Jesus
So-
wasn't white.
No.
Right.
You know, so I mean, so just think about it, and honestly, Stacy, they are to be pitied, and they are to be pitied because their shepherds have left them astray,
Yeah.
and their shepherds, you know, if there is a great comeuppance and there is a balancing of scales, those false leaders, those false teachers, they're going to pay, and it's going to be bad. I mean, you know, I'm all about, you know, redemption and healing and everything else. But, you know, if you break your leg, it hurts, right?
Yeah.
You heal,
Mm-hmm.
but it hurts. I don't want to
Yeah.
get
So
into hurt.
I sent Jim Andre an invitation to go ahead and join. I know we've passed our hour, and Dedrick, I
I'm
know you
sorry.
got to travel. So,
I'm
no,
sorry.
it's not. I'm not putting a time limit on anything. So
We
It's
should
just-
put the Brady Bunch music
Yeah.
on here.
I know. Hi, Jim. I was
What's up,
I
Jim?
was telling John about you, and yes, I was like, okay, so afterwards, I'll just bring them in, and we can continue talking afterwards if you want. So,
Yeah.
Hello, Jim.
how are you?
How are you?
Are you muted? I think you're muted, Jim.
I'm doing pretty. I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for letting me
Yeah.
join you guys.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad you came on.
A man
So-
with a deeper voice than me. I love it.
So yeah, we're like I said, we'll get together out backstage and chit chat a little bit. Like I said, I know Dedrick's got to do some traveling. I didn't want to keep him too long.
Sure. Well, it's been a real
All right,
pleasure,
looking forward to
everybody.
Hey, John, it's been a pleasure.
Oh.
Talk to you again soon.
Yeah, blessings to everybody. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, John.
Thank you.
It's been
very,
very
very much.
enlightening and insightful.
Oh,
Yeah, so-
thank you. Well, I've learned tonight too. Thank you.
Yeah, so don't go anywhere. Hold on. But
No.
I really appreciate everybody coming in and joining us tonight. Thank you for your input and your questions. And Lisa says, hello, Jim. Let me see.
Hi,
We'll
Lisa.
get a couple last ones. I've always been different and kept a hold of that always. Okay, I'm not sure. We got a lot of
Oh, wow.
okay.
We got a lot.
Yeah, they'll just thank you for watching. So like I said, really appreciated you guys. Have a good night, and then we'll see you next week. This is, like I said, the start of season 2. We've got episode 1 and then episode 2 of next week. So have a good night. Wonderful podcast.
TJ.